Okay, thank you. All right, welcome everybody. Sorry for the delay. We little technical difficulties, but anyway, welcome to the March 16th Caroline Town Board additional town business meeting that we've scheduled for tonight by teleconference. It's being recorded and will be posted on the town website. And so without further ado, I will ask if there's anyone who wishes to address the board at the privilege of the floor. You raise your Zoom hand, if so. All right, I'm not seeing any. I'll wait just a second longer. Okay, I don't see any blue Zoom hands. So I will move on to the meeting, and I guess I'll start by asking if there are any additions or deletions from the agenda.
Mark, I sent you a text, but I don't know if you saw it. We should probably have a resolution to appoint the chair of the zoning.
Yeah, that's great. I do have that. That's great. So offer that resolution. And I have a couple of other sort of ministerial resolutions. One seeking approval for the town to support a letter of application for a grant application for CCA work. And yeah, and then also I wanted to at least put forward a possibility that I sent along the proposal for the town hall video monitoring system. So I will discuss that in my supervisor's report and see what you all think about moving forward with that. So, but that's all I have. Okay, great. So with that, I will launch into my supervisor's report. I did attend virtually the Association of Towns meeting in February. The Watershed Committee had a special presentation on February 23rd on spotted salamander migration, which happens with the first steady spring rains. And it happens especially, a lot of them cross Thomas Road to get from the woodlands into the wetland to breed. And so we published an article in the Old Mill, and the committee is going to be taking measures to alert people to avoid that road during that brief time when they're migrating. I was surprised to learn that these salamanders can live 20 or 30 years. So, when you smash one, that can be a long-lived individual. And so anyway, that was a very interesting presentation. There were like 50 people on the presentation, and it was great. And we've also got the spring cleanup happening. I believe that Lucy Gagliardo is stewarding that for the Watershed Committee. So that'll be happening in April. I met with the NYPA engineers on the streetlight conversion, and Bobby and I spoke, and then made a recommendation for 4 locations with road condition sensors as part of the project. So that's supported by a $20,000 grant from the state. So they're engineering that into the project. And I am told that LED streetlight conversion should happen within a couple months now. So by the end of April even. So fingers crossed on that. With TCOG continuing CCA work, and hence the letter for the grant application, and also with emergency services planning. So that continues. At the February meeting of TCOG, Katie Hallis presented about Tompkins Food Futures, and the survey, the purpose of the survey and the efforts they're making to promote local agriculture or local food sources for the community. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, I met with Renee Carver last week in the town hall meeting room to think about positioning of a monitor. It's a 65-inch monitor that would allow us to project the meeting. It would be with a camera and microphone that would record the meeting happening in the town hall space. And it would also, and so that meeting would be conducted, by Zoom via one computer. So that'd be one projection. And then anybody attending virtually would also be projected on the video monitor. So they're basically all brought together. And after wrestling back and forth, and we also, Diane Gare, the court clerk, joined us. We felt like the best option for that space, which is unique in many ways, with the pews facing the board during the meetings, would be to have a monitor mounted on the back wall, which is the south wall, that would project towards the board. We would see it. If there were a presentation for the public in the meeting space, then it would be true that the board would have, or that the attendees would have to turn to view that monitor. But that seemed to be the ideal location. Otherwise, and it's up out of the way there. So that's sort of the proposal we came to. Renee sent along a proposal which included 4 or 5 items, including the TV monitor, and then his contractual time to do the work. So the total for that was like $3,700. So maybe we don't need to decide tonight, but I would like to move it along. Does anybody have any thoughts or reactions, questions?
Is there a township where we could log into a public meeting just to see how it works?
Enfield and Ulysses both have theirs, and so that's possible. That's possible.
Mark, where's the camera going to be located?
The camera would be right along, like at the top of the monitor.
And I mean, I assume that they didn't do any tests while they were there to see. I mean, that's a very tight space. So how wide of an angle can that camera get in terms of accommodating how the board would be placed, especially since if and when we come back, we're going to have to be socially distanced.
Sure. Yeah, he didn't do any measurements or anything. He does have a lot of experience with this. He's done this for BOCES, and so I was just trusting his judgment. But yeah, it's a reasonable question, a follow-up question. Yeah.
I guess we would want that clarified. The other question that I have is, what was he saying about capturing sound from the audience in the town hall? What kind of sound mics is he providing with this system? Because the town board would also have to be mic'd. There'd have to be sound capture on the tables. Did he go into that detail?
Yeah, part of the proposal he sent did have a very sensitive microphone that would be part of it. I don't know if that would be, I'm not sure where that would be positioned.
And
so.
one just might not be enough. I mean, I've had a lot of experience with this, and generally speaking, if you're trying to mic a meeting room, even a long table, usually you need at least a couple of mics on the table to capture everybody's sound. This is a big room. So we might need clarification on that too. Sorry, I don't mean to cause any problems. I'm just thinking.
Oh, no, it's good. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And would it interfere with any of the courts' recording equipment?
No, not at
Good.
all. They could use it if they wanted to, but it's, that was never the intent or anything. But yeah, it would be totally,
Totally independent and not interfere with any of their.
My only comment has nothing to do with the equipment at all. We could just put a pin in this for later, but if, in terms of process and informed consent regarding no knowledge of being recorded, if you're entering that space and attending a meeting, I mean, I guess I have the same question about these meetings, but I think you do say at the beginning, maybe that they are being recorded and people know if they're speaking out, it's a public forum, but I think we should be more mindful about that moving forward in terms of having a pretty explicit informed consent about recording.
I think it's legally required.
I think we could probably do it, as we did for the video camera in the town hall, is just, post notice very prominently in the entryway there. So,
Or that it couldn't be, I mean, there's the knowledge of being recorded and then there's use of that. I mean, we've had this happen before where town board meetings are recorded and put in documentaries, for example. And as someone who appeared in that documentary, I was never asked if that was okay.
yeah, I get it. That's, something we'd want to be very careful about. And
For the record, I was happy that I was included, but I was never asked.
yeah, great. So and also Irene messaged me that on the meeting now that she's wondering if we should consider having the monitor on the other wall where it would be visible on the opposite wall. So then it would be visible to attendees. And I'm thinking about that. Yeah, maybe the camera could be mounted on the south wall, but the monitor could be monitored. The monitor could be mounted on the north wall.
But if we did that, the audience coming in from Zoom would not be visible to the board.
That's true.
Are we, let me get my directions straight here because I might not have them. When you say the north wall, you're talking the wall where the judge's bench is, correct?
Correct.
Well, that's where we typically will project things.
Right.
Like when we have a presentation, so we might have to reposition a little, but I think that would work.
Yeah, I mean, Tim's point is well taken as far as the way we normally sit. It would require that, we would have to reposition, maybe be, I don't know, lined up facing each other so that we could see that. But
Well, I think mainly the supervisor and the clerk would be the ones that would have their back to it unless they turn their chairs.
yeah, and who cares about them? So.
Well, that's what I was saying, but.
Yeah. Okay. Well, those are things to think about.
Yeah.
I think I'll speak with Renee about that and see what he says.
And the court could have an opinion about hanging a monitor on that wall in the docket. So that's something we'd need to talk
That's true.
about too.
Yeah, on the judge's wall.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that might affect them possibly. Yep. Good point. Okay. Good. Thanks, everybody. So I think let me circle back to Renee and I'll let you know what I find out. Get some answers on these things. So, okay. Super. I just noted that the reading room, the the library has reopened and that seems to be going very, very successfully. So without a hitch. And then, so yeah. The great. Okay. So that's what I have for my supervisor's report. Yeah, move along to the town clerk's report. Jesse, do you have anything to tell us?
I'll just quickly, for the record, remind everybody that I collect tax payments through the end of this month. Then payments need to be sent in directly to Tompkins County Finance Office. Again, I've collected about 85% of all the taxes in the town, the tax payments in the town, and that I've had Chris with me since the beginning of January, and she'll work with me the next couple of Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then her last day will probably be on, I guess, the 25th. So I'll be on my own in the clerk's office. But things are already starting to quiet down, and doing other catch-up work now, so.
Great. Sounds
And
good.
And Corey had actually given me a little thing for the code office too. That I'll just let everybody know that he has completed half of his training courses, and that classes resume again next week. And building permits are starting to pick up more. And that's about it that I got from him.
Great.
Mark,
Thanks.
while we're on that subject, I'd just like to ask you to give Corey a reminder that he had agreed to give us monthly building permit reports, and we haven't seen those. And
Okay.
especially if they're picking up, we really need to see what's going on.
Okay. Great. I'll mention that and get an April 1. And I also, it is something I meant to mention in my supervisor's report that I have spoken with Terry Carroll recently about the next round of Clean Energy Communities initiatives. And one thing that he recommended was the stretch code. And there's an incentive along with that. So I've discussed that with Corey. And he and I are going to meet with Terry and Lou Vogel on Thursday of this week to ask and answer questions. And so we'll be taking it from there and possibly making a recommendation. I would say very likely making a recommendation for the town to strongly consider adopting the stretch code, which and so I'll follow up with that more when we know more. So anything else, Jesse, from yours
That's
or
it.
Corey's? Great. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
I don't think Bobby's here tonight. Nope. So we'll move along. And that covers we heard from Dan last week. So that covers the department reports. And so I will move on to the business part of the meeting and open the discussion of the moratorium waiver application submitted by Sunnex. And so the moratorium waiver section has 7 specific criteria that need to be met in whole or in part in order for a waiver to be granted. And so I thought I do have some language for the moratorium that describes the process, the application materials that have been submitted, and the fact that we completed the public hearing on March 10th. And then I think the other substance of what we're considering tonight will be considering the details for each of those 7 provisions. So I would open the discussion for that. The first one is considers whether failure to grant the waiver will cause the applicant a unique and unjust extraordinary harm. And so that's the first one we need to address. So. And just to get the ball rolling, I'll just offer what I have concluded in that regard and written is that there would be a unique and unjust extraordinary harm as a result of the investments of time and resources in preliminary planning over the last several years in conjunction with declining federal and state incentives. And that harm would be to both the developer, Sunex, and to the landowner, Mr. Tavelli.
I came to that same conclusion, and a fairly robust harm.
Okay.
I think the town,
Something
I think, I think the town would also lose out on a good project. Because I think if, you know, they're just gonna move on. It seems to me that as I read things, they're just gonna move on.
Except that I wouldn't include that. I mean, whether that's true or not, that's
That's not.
the town is
pertinent-
not seeking a waiver.
Yeah, that's not pertinent to the
Yeah.
waiver, right? Okay.
Something that I noticed in reading through all of this carefully, and I'm not sure that it pertains to our decision, but I found myself surprised that, I mean, there are 3 landowners involved in this project, and it seems like only one landowner is claiming harm, which I found to be curious.
I mean, I guess I'll just address that as far as I don't think there's a necessity for each of them to claim harm. And so, I mean, I guess that's how I would look at it. And I think Mr. Tavelli is the main landowner involved in the project. So.
Right, this is just more of a, I guess, a comment on Sunex's the degree to which they have prepared their materials. I mean, I understand the harm to Mr. Tavelli, but it's just something that I noticed that had I noticed this earlier, I probably would have asked for more information. Just to be consistent, you know. I mean, I think that all of this is important to consider because this is the first waiver request we've had at the moratorium, so we just want to be thorough.
And part of it too is though the way the property boundaries are drawn in that area, they're this very pie shaped, and I think we've got one landowner that's kind of taking the lead in this and coordinating with the others to kind of bring together a cooperative agreement. One's, you know, more local and trying to keep, you know, looking for an additional source of income from the land and just kind of cooperating with the neighbors.
I think I certainly would advocate anybody putting in this type of request to be as thorough as possible, but I would also say that I think the question of harm is a fairly binary choice. Is there harm or is there not harm? And then to look at, sort of magnitude. And I think if we conclude that there is economic harm, then perhaps that test has been met.
Okay, thanks, John. Any other comments or any? I guess I'll ask, so for that first one, which seems to be it's sort of a core one or a dominant one. Are you comfortable with the wording that I provided? Is that sufficient? It seems like, I don't know that we've changed anything or elaborated on that in a significant way.
Well, I guess, Mark, I'll just ask process-wise, are you wanting everyone to go through each one of the 7? Or, I mean, the language I have in the law in front of me is that set forth in this resolution granting the waiver in whole or in part that such and such and such. So it doesn't require, my reading of that is in whole or in part. So we don't need each of the 7 to satisfy. It's fine. I mean, I'm happy to have a discussion about each one of the 7, but I don't know that that's required based on the process.
Oh, okay. My understanding of that was that that each one of those in whole or in part needed to apply.
Okay.
I believe that's correct.
Thank you. Well, that
Sure.
is different then. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But your interpretation would have shortened our job considerably. So.
Okay.
But
in that case, I interpreted it the same way that Catherine did. No, just kidding.
Okay, so I will move on to the second one, and that is that the granting of the waiver will not adversely impact the goals of the moratorium in protecting and preserving the rural character and resources of the town. I paraphrased, but I think that's really what it asked. And what I wrote was the waiver will allow project planning to move forward to produce a formal application, which will be subject to applicable local laws that work to protect the interests of the town and its residents. So that's at least part of the argument. Yeah, I think that's.
I would agree that
Okay.
this criteria has been met.
Yep.
Okay. Great. I'm seeing head nods and okay. You good with that, Cal?
Yes.
Okay, great. Number 3, that the action for which a waiver is being sought is harmonious with neighboring uses and the town's 2021 comprehensive plan in preserving open space. And then this is my conclusion, that it is in preserving open space, supporting associated agriculture, and generating renewable energy for its residents. So to me, those are the ways that I could think of right off the bat that are very consistent with our comprehensive plan that were mentioned by the applicant and people who spoke at the public hearing.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Okay.
I thought the application did a good job of trying to address those concerns with good specifics.
Yep. Great. Thank you. I agree. All right. Moving on to number 4. And that is that the hardship is not self-created by the applicant. My reading of it is by virtue of what we've identified as the cause of the hardship. So it's a consequence of the design incentives for solar energy projects that decline over time in order to stimulate timely development of resources deemed important to the public welfare. And so,
Yeah, those factors aren't in control of the applicant.
right, they're external. So, okay, agreement there. I'll move on to number 5. And that is that the harm to the applicant in denying the waiver will not be outweighed by the benefit to the community in maintaining the status quo. And I would argue that the applicant would face significant financial harm with delay, and that the project plan is consistent with existing state and impending local solar siting laws, as well as other town laws. And so basically that there really is no benefit to the town in delaying the project.
Correct.
Agreement there? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Great, thank you. Number 6, that the application for a waiver was substantially complete at the time of filing and the notice for a public hearing on February 20th. Such that the Caroline Town Board had ample opportunity to consider the facts, bases, and arguments regarding the waiver. I think that's true. Fairly straightforward. And then the 7th one is that the relief being considered, which is fairly straightforward, from the town's land use moratorium is not greater than the minimum relief needed by the applicant to relieve the hardship. And so the applicant just needs to know that it will be able to move forward with permitting and review processes with the town when appropriate. That one seems true as well.
I would say so. Without granting this relief, they can't move forward. Right. That's sort of the bottleneck in it.
Yeah.
So I would say that's met.
Okay. Great. Okay. Tim.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, this, I don't want to sidetrack, but I just had one question. I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to ask Mr. Feldman a question just for clarification, but
No,
in the, because this is something that could help impact the next stage of this, but in the waiver application, one of the arguments that was made by Sunex is that if the waiver is granted, the town will be able to realize the increased tax revenue that are above and beyond that of the current agricultural land, which is understandable. But then I just was wondering, at the same time in the proposal narrative, Sunex said that they may pursue a TCIDA for payment in lieu of taxes agreement, a pilot to redefine a reliable burden for the life of the project. And I found myself wondering if that would be, how that would relate to the town tax.
you wanted clarification?
Yeah,
Okay.
clarification.
Okay.
And this doesn't necessarily, just to be sure, this doesn't impinge on my decision about this waiver, but since he's here, I just was hoping that we could take a second.
Sure. So the big issue at large is called RPTL 487, Real Property Tax Law 487. And the state default is that if we put in, or anyone of our size put in renewable energy equipment, it would not be taxable as real property unless the jurisdiction opts out. Caroline has not. So if no action was taken and we went ahead, we would install the solar energy equipment without any taxes. What conventionally happens, what makes sense business long-term, is that we seek a payment in lieu of taxes agreement for a duration, and then there we get to another split. But basically, it makes sense to set this up now rather than be subject to change in the exemption later. So two ways we can go about doing that. One is through the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency, in which we address them directly. They coordinate with the school district, the town, and the county to be a central point to handle the payment in lieu of taxes agreement. And one reason we go to them is they can do this agreement for 30 years. Alternatively, we could go to each of the jurisdictions by ourselves and have a 15-year agreement set up in place to pay a certain amount and pay a certain amount greater than zero for that time. So we intend on contributing, and that's you know, the way that works. So does that sort of get at what your questions are, Mr. Murray?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand the related impact on contributions to town taxes, but I guess if I'm understanding you correctly, that is what is to be negotiated.
Yeah, we would be off. We will offer a pilot. I can't tell you today whether we go through the IDA or whether we come directly to you, but even, you know, like I said, the default would be zero. So we're not going to accept that default, and there will be a payment coming to the town, either through the IDA or in a direct Sunex Town of Caroline agreement.
Thanks, I guess.
You good with that, Tim? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted, you know, I was reading these materials and it was just something that, I mean, the challenge, of course, is a lot of this is all all contingent. So we don't really know. But thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chet. Great. All right. So any other thoughts or comments on the items we marched through, the analysis we did? If there are none, I will offer a resolution with the language that we just went over, I think, and say, you know, therefore be it resolved, the Caroline Town Board hereby grants a waiver from the town's temporary moratorium on land use development reviews and applications and development actions to Sunex LLC for its proposed 22 megawatt solar project near 103776 Road.
I'll second.
Seconded. Okay. And now I'll open it up for discussion, if there's any further comment.
I thought we just had the discussion.
Yeah, that's right. So with no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The resolution passes and the waiver is granted. Right. All right.
Congratulations.
Thanks, everybody. We'll get it going now.
Great. Okay.
Be back in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chet. The next item on the agenda is the review of the pandemic safety plan. I don't really intend for us to review it here at the meeting tonight. I did send it to you, I don't know, I think on March 9th or something, and it has highlighted sections that I filled in for the plan. And it overlaps considerably with the COVID-19 plan that we adopted in February, I believe. And as far as especially the benefits to employees under pandemic situations. So, but what I would like to do is I'm going to I did provide it to Superintendent Spencer. So if everybody if you see anything and have feedback, let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to forward it on to the Teamsters, the highway unit, for their review. And then when they return it, we would be ready to adopt it as a town policy. So. That sounds good. And it was a template provided by the state. So I think it was pretty solid, actually. And I did get some feedback from Will today, so I'll be looking at that tomorrow and working on that. And she had talked to Beth Harrington, who's worked in emergency services, so I have some constructive feedback to add in. So I'll let you know about that when I get it, but I don't have it now. So. Great. So, all right. So I'll move on to the next item, which I have down as planning discussion and review of RFP for a planner. And so, so the first resolution, as far as, I guess I'd like to go ahead and offer a couple of resolutions. Or would you like to have a discussion first? Just to set the stage for the zoning commission. So I'll go ahead and offer the resolution. First of all, I'd like to offer a resolution to appoint Evie Weinstein to the zoning commission.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Cal. And discussion. And having no discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
We did
Aye.
Mark, we did the last votes secretly. I think we should be consistent.
Pardon me, Jim?
We did the last
Right.
votes secretly, so we should be.
Oh,
consistent.
that's true. Well,
Are we entering this as an addition to the other names that have not been named publicly
Yeah.
yet? Because that's a little,
so, I mean, are we, I mean, I guess it makes sense to just offer a resolution to appoint the full membership of the 4 names that were selected. So, is that your, yeah, so, so I'll offer a resolution to appoint Evie Weinstein, Jean McFeeters, Bruce Murray, and Ernie Bales to the zoning commission. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Cal. And discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Great, thank you. And then I would like to offer a resolution to appoint Jean McFeeters as chair of the zoning commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, John, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Great, thank you. All right, so we have the structure set up. And I did provide a draft proposal for a planner or a planning firm. So I don't know if you have any feedback on that tonight.
I think we should do this really as soon as possible. So I'd like to get the call distributed.
Okay.
It's going to take us a good month to get this set up. Time's
I
wasted.
maybe I can make it easier then. I reviewed it. It seemed procedurally on target. It, in my view, clearly defined what the ask was, what services we're seeking, and defined a clear process for doing that. I don't have any recommended revisions to it.
Okay.
So if we wanted to move on it tonight, if other council members felt the same, I'm prepared to vote on it.
I am.
Okay, great. So that's super, thank you. So I'll offer it for a resolution to approve the RFP for a planner.
Second.
Seconded by Tim. And any further discussion? Probably none. So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Great. All right, thanks, guys. Let's see, where are we here? I'll offer and I am offering a resolution to support, of support by the board for the Eberhard Preserve. This is not a town initiative, but it is the county reaches out to us since it is in the town. And so I think it's nice to formalize that as a matter of process. So So whereas the Finger Lakes Land Trust has accepted a land donation to establish the 143-acre Eberhard Preserve that will protect mature hardwood forests that are part of Tompkins County's unique natural areas, and will provide for public access and recreation. And whereas the Eberhard Preserve will contribute to the Emerald Necklace, a green belt to link 50,000 acres of existing public conservation lands recognized as a priority project within New York State's open space plan. And whereas the Finger Lakes Land Trust has requested $35,000 from Tompkins County's Capital Reserve Fund for natural, scenic, and recreational resource protection to support this acquisition and establish public accessibility, therefore be it resolved, the Caroline Town Board endorses this proposed support of the Eberhard Preserve by Tompkins County. Great. Do I have a second? Catherine got it with her hand. So great. All right. So if there's no further comments, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, great, thank you. Offer a resolution for the supervisor to sign on to a letter of support for the application to the Park Foundation for a program director for to develop CCA, community choice aggregation in Tompkins County. So the idea is this person would help this year to figure out how to implement community choice aggregation that would specify renewable energy at a competitive price, and also do research on moving forward with additional initiatives associated with CCA to build out aspects that would support the community. It's CCA 3.0, so it would incentivize the build out of local community renewable energy projects and other workforce development, things like that. So that's the idea. Is everybody okay with that? Caroline sign on to that?
Yep.
Right, okay. So I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Great.
Can I
Okay.
have can I have a second on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jesse, for keeping us in line. All right. I think we've covered it, folks. Does anybody else have anything else to talk about tonight?
No, but I'm impressed.
Okay. So I'm wondering, do we want to?
I will note that this is under an hour.
Oh, good. Still very.
Don't talk us over it, Mark.
I'm wondering if we want to schedule another meeting for next Tuesday night.
Sure.
For funsies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that will be just a half hour. And we'll keep going in successive like 15-minute increments till we're at like 30 seconds. It'll be great.
So good. All right. So with nothing further, thanks everybody for attending. Thank you all. And I'll call for adjournment of the meeting.
I don't want to leave Barry's hockey game.
Yeah, really. Good work tonight, everybody.
Good. Okay. Thanks everybody for the
Bye.
extra night. Okay.
Bye.
Stay there.
Bye-bye.
Good night.